Hola, hola a todas, hola a todos y bienvenidos a la última conversación de VOR OnLive. VOR es un elemento en la navegación aérea que ayuda al piloto a seguir la ruta correcta. Siguiendo esa idea en CENTRO, VOR es una serie de diálogos, conversaciones e intervenciones para encontrar nuevas rutas creativas para la solución de problemas. Entonces es repensar los problemas y diferentes temas a través de la creatividad, que es lo que hacemos también en CENTRO. Hoy tenemos un evento muy especial y muy importante, muy interesante, muy contemporáneo, de un tema que tiene que ver con la creatividad en su esencia, que es la belleza. Y pues para discutir sobre la belleza, tanto en su contexto contemporáneo como en los objetos, en los productos de moda y las fragancias, hoy nos acompañan dos personas muy importantes. Primero, voy a cambiar a inglés para presentarlos e introducir esta sesión. So welcome to VOR OnLive. Now I'm going to introduce our guests. First, we have someone you have known and that is very important for the CENTRO family. She's Mónica Mendoza. She's the director of our undergraduate degree in textile and fashion design, but she's also the director of our global fashion management graduate degree and all our graduate degrees at CENTRO. She's an expert in fashion. She has been around in the industry for many years, so you'll hear her brilliance live. But we also have a very important and amazing person, Marc Benhamou. He is the founder of the Creative 360 Degrees agency. He's also a professor at LIM University, and he has been the creative director of Estilo Dea and L'Oréal. So welcome, Monica. Welcome, Marc. Thank you for being here. I'm sure that people want to hear and have a great conversation with you both, and we'll learn a lot of wonderful and interesting things about beauty today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Marc. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's really a pleasure to have you with us at VOR. We're very, very happy, very thankful for having Marc as a guest speaker today. He has been incredibly generous to gift us with his time. As the conversation goes along, you'll see how incredible his experience, his knowledge, and his talent is. And he has prepared a fantastic presentation for all of us that will cover many topics and aspects that I think will be of great interest to all of you. Beauty is something that we yet haven't explored much at CENTRO, so we know this is going to be incredibly interesting and it will feed everyone's knowledge. Just to put a little context, Marc's first job was at Vogue. He earned many awards being there, and he then became a senior vice president and global creative director at some of the most prestigious cosmetic brands, as Gonzalo mentioned. He has been responsible for many product launches through his more than 20-year career as an executive. I want to take this opportunity as well to thank Karen, who kindly introduced us to Marc. Thank you very much for that, and to all of CENTRO's team for putting together these conversations. Just a quick note. Very important to mention that all the images you will see throughout the presentation are not CENTRO's property. These are just materials to further explain certain concepts or practices within the industry. So we appreciate you understanding that bit. Thank you so much, Marc.
Okay, welcome everyone. It's a real pleasure to be part of this series with CENTRO. And we are going to talk obviously a lot about beauty today. Beauty, as you know, is not only a reflection of our culture, it's also a mirror of our society. But it's also a pop cultural commodities, and it's empowering billions of people today. Talking about number, you should all know that actually the beauty industry is about $500 billion. And what did happen in the last 10, 15 years is amazing. It was a huge shift in communication and in culture with the introduction of social media And obviously, we are going to talk a lot about that. I decided to show you, to start the presentation for inspiration to all of you, a portfolio that I was part of many years ago. It was about 14 years ago, and it was done for a magazine which is called V magazine. And maybe we can show the first slide. Oh yes, I forget to mention that, you know, since we are going to go back on time a little bit, I'm going to go back on time a lot, and everyone should know really the etymology of the word cosmetic. Actually comes from the Greek, and it's a meaning of technique of dress and ornament. So you see already there is a very big connection to fashion, and also to some kind of order, you know, skill in ordering or arranging. And that's something very important to keep in mind to really understand what the beauty industry is about. The second word, actually also, let's go back to the slide. I would like to mention also that in the Roman Empire, the woman called cosmetae, actually she was a slave and she was responsible for the adornment of her mistress and preparing all her potion and all her makeup. And that's really the origin of the word cosmetic. Then we have, of course, the word beauty. It's true that for many years the industry was called kind of the cosmetic industry, but now we call it the beauty industry because it endorses many other you know, activities around the world of beauty. And beauty actually comes from Anglo-French beauté and beauté. It also, you know, have sources in Spanish with beldad, in Italian belta, and it comes really, the roots is from the Latin and it's bellus. And a bellus was somebody who was pretty handsome and charming. So that's really the origin of the word beauty. And so let's go back to what I said first about this portfolio I'm going to show you. And it was done by V magazine, and we are going to show the first slide. And this magazine was kind of like, almost like an art magazine. It was founded by Stephen Gann and few others. And they asked us to basically give our definition of what we think beauty is about. So they asked basically famous creative director and famous hair and makeup artist. And I think it's interesting to see what these people say about more than 10 years ago and to see how relevant today or what did shift or maybe, you know, what did progress. So let's start. And of course, I felt that beauty will save the world is so relevant in today's environment. And I really hope that indeed beauty will save all of us at some point. The first one was from Guido Palao, who is a very famous hairstylist. Actually, he was one of the pioneers of the grunge movement. So if all these visuals sounds very familiar to you, he's the first one who give that look with actually the help of the photographer David Sims. And he works for very important fashion designer like Calvin Klein, and he works with Steven Meisel and Avedon, and he's and still is, I think, you know, Red Can consultant. And his quote is, "Beauty is confidence within." Let's go to the next one. This is from Douglas Lloyd. Douglas Lloyd is the founder of a very known creative agency in New York. They are specialized in beauty and fashion. And I think his quote is really so relevant of today. Forget the idea of purity. Real modern beauty is a remix. And it's so true. And I really like, you know, the way this collage was done with Slove, who is also very known beauty photographer, and the idea of the remix is something so relevant today. The next one is from Orlando Pita, one of my favorite hair stylists, very famous for the incredible architecture and the risk that he takes, you know, with his creation. And he said, "Beauty needs no definition or validation, so build it." And I think also that's a very strong quote from Orlando. The next one is from Olivier van Doorn. He was the master creative director of another big agency called Select in New York, and we also have office in Paris and in Germany. And he said, beauty is fast forward, not to the past. And indeed, during the presentation, I will show you some slides from the past, because you cannot really understand the world of beauty if you don't really have knowledge of how we came to what we are today, and look at all the origin of many products and fragrances and so on. The next one, actually, it's from me. I know I was very humbled to be part of this portfolio. I'm by far not as famous as all the people that are part of it, but anyway, I say something like beauty is everywhere, but it's elusive. To capture it is an art. And here was really a quote to express the idea that to make a great shot, it's not so easy. You know, it's not just clicking the camera and oops, you know, you have a beautiful picture. Sometimes it takes, first of all, a work of a big team, and you can work days and not have any picture that really have the magic that you are expecting. And to be able to find that instant, that moment is very special. And when it happens, everybody's really happy about it. This is Tom Pesce. Tom Pesce is also a very famous makeup artist. He basically is now Yves Saint Laurent global beauty director. He also worked with Estée Lauder with me in the past, and he's a very passionate person about his work and his skill. And he said, beauty is personal, unique, individual, and in constant evolution. It's my food. I live for it. I cannot live without it. And that's for me also a beautiful quote, because it's known that people working in the beauty industry, they are very passionate. When you start to work in this industry, you probably will spend your whole life working in this industry. There are very little people who shift and go to other industry. And all the people who are, you know, on the creative side, they really have a passion for it. And I think this quote is still very valid. And also I like the idea of constant evolution, because indeed it's always something happening new. This is Gucci Westman. Gucci Westman is a makeup artist. She also have her own line of product, Westman Atelier. And her quote is, beauty is observing the change in color through the season. Who I think, you know, is also a beautiful way to look at beauty, and like nature, a change of color, and there is an evolution. She picked actually a black and white picture, I think was quite interesting from Paolo Radersi. And she also worked at Revlon and at Lancôme. This is James Kaliardos, and he's one of the founders of Visionnaire. I don't know if you all heard about the magazine Visionnaire. It's now a collector. And they also founded V Magazine, was like an evolution of Visionnaire. And he's also a very famous makeup artist. He was very instrumental for L'Oréal Paris and also for MAC. And he said, beauty is a freedom for a woman's face to be seen publicly. And that's also kind of a different view on basically the world of beauty. But it's very true. This is Jem Gauger. Jem Gauger is a colleague of mine from Estée Lauder. He was the head creative of MAC. He's really the one behind the huge success of MAC, who are basically a pioneer really in the industry, which changed really dramatically the way makeup and was seen and sold. And he says something like, beauty for me right now is about being the best you can be at any age, filled with contrast, contradiction, grace, and drama. And that's also a very nice quote. This is Odi Umali, and She is also a famous artist, and she's a creative director at Max Factor and CoverGirl, and she said beauty is enigmatic. And indeed, you know, it shows, you know, like this superposition and, you know, all the mystery that you can have into beauty. This is Giovanni Cirusso. He used to have an agency called Creative Number 11, and he was also at Estée Lauder. He was in the head of clinic for a while, and he says something like, beauty is the essence of simplicity. And obviously, you know, this is a great visual from Guido Mocafico, who is a very famous photographer as well. This is Luigi Moreno, who is, you know, also a great, you know, hairstylist. And he said, freedom is beauty, the freedom to create, inspire, singular look. And it is true that through that visual, you can see and feel the freedom of the hair. And trust me, it is very challenging to play with hair during a photo shoot. You can do 1,000 pictures and not have one with white. And, you know, but here obviously it's a perfect shot. This is Linda Candelo, and she's very famous also makeup artist. She invented the smoky eyes, and she worked for Yves Saint Laurent Beauté also for many years. And she said, beauty is all about being multi-dimensional. I've met so many pretty faces, but it is the one who are bold and embrace the unexpected that truly stand out. It's another one from Olivier, and he said, beauty is layers and layers and layers of colors, emotion, and culture. And it is true that when you start to work on the makeup of a model, it could be many layers, you know, and all the emotions and the culture can surge from it. And that's where, you know, was this first portfolio. And I hope that, you know, you should start to chat. What would be your quote?
Marc, maybe just for people who are probably not as familiar with Visionaire, could you mention what year was this portfolio?
Yes, of course. Actually, I have it here, you know, and this issue was actually summer 2006. So it's 14 years old, and this was, the cover was a large magazine. This was a cover, and it was a large format type of magazine. And this was actually, you know, I show you, you know, the visual big format of that.
Fantastic.
They are all
you know, as Marc is putting in the presentation, please chat your quote. If you have a notion relevant to you of what beauty is, please feel free to write it in the live comments, as well as your questions that we will later ask during the presentation. Thank you, Marc. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into that, but I felt that, you know, it's important to put a little philosophy into our beauty discussion. And there is a lot of discussion about the difference between the good and the beautiful. You know, in French, we say le bon et le bien, you know, and there is some moral choice and social responsibility who are part of the industry. And that's something we are becoming more and more important in a world of the industry. And I love that slide because for me, from what you saw from that portfolio with 14 years old, and where we are today, you can see now where is the state of mind. And we get so worried about being pretty. Let's be pretty kind, pretty funny, pretty smart, pretty strong. And I think this billboard said it all, okay? It's not just about, indeed, to be just pretty. So I'm going to show you a first little video. It's a little long, but I love that video because it's a TV commercial for Kenzo fragrance, and it was done by a famous director, Spike Jonze. And I think in that video, he basically express this billboard quite in a nice way. Yeah, don't worry, it's very little sound at the beginning, the music is coming. She's bored, she's very bored right now, this young woman. She's going to excuse herself. And now she's going to think, what I am doing here?
I could have do them, I would put trouble and a bad down and frazzle them. They must see you say that we dating off them, muggle them. They must say that we have the girl them body and knuckle them. I do them. Want to live in the novel them. As in the club and we pop up all the back. Them I say them can't run in, cause we defend and we tackle them. And no water come out and we not. Back up on the match and no we no care what them I say. Come me like them out and move but we know hear what them I say. We no matter what the years and them I say your money. Your body big. Them I say.
All right.
Can I pop a question here? What do you think is the most exciting part at creating, let's say, communication pieces like this for the beauty industry?
The most exciting part is it's basically a team effort. I will say that's what really I like as a creative director is to get together the best possible team for the assignment and to be able to produce, the best possible shooting and of course the whole creative process to go with it. It's also working closely with marketing team and to respect obviously the objective of the work that you are going to do. It's not, as I always say, just to do a pretty visual.
Absolutely.
It's not about that. It's about selling products and to basically respect and understand the brand, not only understand and respect the brand from its history and where it's going, and be present just when you do your work that it fits within the history of that brand.
Absolutely, and that also it feels relevant to consumers and to the people who are related to that brand as well.
That's correct. So that's for me the most exciting part. Of course, there is many other aspects, of the part. Probably what is the most emotional and exciting part is the shooting by itself. To be in a studio or on location, it's a lot of emotion. It's a lot of friendship. Is a lot of things happening during the shoot. And trust me, we remember every single shoot we did in our career, and the photographer as well. And it's families. After a while.
You're constantly going back to working with the same people and the same team, so it really is a family relation. I think we're going to see another video now, right?
Yeah, actually, we're going to see a video with completely
in real life, beauty is up to us.
It can be very glamorous or down to earth.
It should be fun.
It's whatever makes you feel comfortable and confident with yourself.
I feel powerful.
It's finding the right moment. It's however you define it that day.
It's definitely not about conforming.
It's my secret obsession.
This is real life, and it's beautiful.
Yes, I decided to show these two videos because it's both about empowering women in a very different way, obviously. But the contrast, is interesting to see the evolution of the world of beauty as something real. So you have the world of surreal and imagination with fragrances, but also sense of reality of a working mother or working, woman. And I think CBS, did quite a good job with that.
And I think, as you mentioned at the beginning, beauty is a mirror of society. And I think in this type of I think this is a very important part to look not only as a consumer, but as a professional, that all the materials that are out there and all the products that are out there are actually talking about what's going on in society. And I think this is very important related to the last piece you showed. Okay.
I'd here also like to continue a little bit on quotes. I just pick this one that I like very much about Marilyn Monroe, because actually the pinups in Hollywood were very instrumental in the development of the beauty industry, with also the color in the movies and all of that become really something huge in the 60s. And she said, beauty is the opposition of perfection. It's about confidence, charisma, and characters. And that's something very important about the search to perfection. And it is true that the world of beauty, especially in the 80s, with too much photoshopping, was starting to create a woman who didn't exist, and teenager really was very, destabilized by trying to look at something who doesn't exist. And Marilyn Monroe, have a very good quote. And also the next slide is a very good quote from photographer Peter Lindbergh, who unfortunately passed away last year, but I love him as a great photographer. And he said, as an artist, I feel I have the responsibility to free women from the idea of eternal youth and perfection. Societies of perfection is impossible to achieve. And that's also a very important quote. Who, by the way, has a feeling of also it's the paradox in the same time, because no matter what, artists always tend to look for perfection in their work. It's different type of perfection, but somehow we are all looking to get the best we can, and to show the best possible visual that you are a painter or a photographer or whatever. But it is true, when you look at this portrait that he did of Kate Moss, it's just like the perfect shot. I have nothing else to add. And obviously, she's not retouched. I know there's a lot of talk about that, how much model are retouched, but here she is the way she is. And however, it's true, it's very hard to do a picture like that. It's like you have to find that moment, to be able to do that, and the light has to be right, and the moment has to be right. The way we're going to move on this presentation is that after a few considerations, I decided to show you a portfolio of fragrance advertising. I could have picked, skincare advertising, or I could have picked makeup advertising, but I felt that fragrance somehow is a more abstract form of communication in the beauty industry, because there is no way you can demonstrate to a consumer what the perfume smell like. Okay, it's about really the purest form of communication of an abstraction. But however, I still want to show a few slides about some skincare advertising. I just did that picture last week for you guys. It's downtown in New York. I was passing by in car on a West Side Highway, and it's that company HelloRory.com who came up with this incredible new concept about prescription skincare, who basically customize skincare for you. And I really invite you to look at the website, because I believe this is a trend of the future. We will see at some point, pharmaceutical industry, medical industry, and beauty industry to converge together and to offer to consumer basically a product just for them. And that's something very good. I also need to mention Glossier, because Glossier is so interesting as a brand, really based on social media. I mean, the founder of this company have a blog for years, and she truly understands the power of social media. And her whole brand was built with this attitude to listen to what people really want. And she had a tremendous success, and her company is, worth billions of dollars today. They also, go back to the slide, thank you. They also revolutionized the way to do advertising. It was not anymore the traditional advertising. It was starting to develop social media in a very big way at all kind of platform, but also advertising in subway, on billboard, and this is some picture, in a subway, and also that was on billboard, in Los Angeles, in New York, and also very good headline. This also is very interesting. On makeup, I love the work of Rihanna and what she did for Fenty Beauty. You should all know that really she's the one who is starting to really develop the movement of it's not enough shade, developed by the beauty industry, and she's starting to, develop what we call now the 50 plus shades. Now all the brand obviously are completely embarked into it and propose on foundation, more than 50 now. I think it's some brand of 75 shades to really make the point about diversity. And yes, indeed, there is many shades of skin tone. What also is interesting on this picture that took in a subway in New York is what I call vertical media. That's something super interesting. I went actually to a little conference about that. And it's going to revolutionize also the way to look at advertising. Is about basically verticality of screen, and it changed everything. I will say that there's a lot more to be done with that format. It's basically virtually taking your camera and shifting your camera in a vertical way. It works so well actually for the fashion world, and also it works very well for the beauty world, because most of the face of the product are actually vertical. The narrative, however, and the setup in vertical media is very different, obviously, and there's a lot to explore. And I think we will see more and more of this type of vertical media in the future. Actually, I learned that Apple computer is coming up with a new screen that you will be able to flip, like vertically, to work really vertically. This is just a slide, about, again, of some iconic visuals to, again, reinforce the fact that the world of beauty is the mirror of society, as we said, and of culture. I will need like a whole new conversation to go into all of that, but I still want to make the point, that it's definitely a worldwide phenomenon. But in the same time, I felt very important, to put also some knowledge that at the beginning, the beauty industry was very much the privilege of the very wealthy and the nobility. And I can assure you that this family from this farmer were not worried about what moisturizer SPF 50 they were going to wear. Neither this woman from the Great Depression worried about what shade of lipstick she was going to buy tomorrow. It's always important to remember that and to keep that in mind. To the next slide, life was not for everybody like Marie Antoinette, okay? And that's a slide from the famous movie of Sofia Coppola with Kristen Dunst, and that's actually a modern variation on Marie Antoinette, the jet set world, right? But things change completely. There is no more now this, this. It's only for privileged and people from the luxury world. It's for absolutely everybody. I love this artist. I don't know if you heard about it, Monica. This is Hungry. Hungry is, from Berlin, and he was part of the drag queen movement, and he's probably one of the most extraordinary makeup artists. But it go way beyond makeup artists. It's for me really very much a vision of the future about being able to express your personality and in so many surrealistic ways. I invite everyone to look at his work. It's Hungry, that's his name.
But I think his work also very much relates to fashion in the way that fashion is always shifting, shifting to that direction, to self-expression. And you could think earlier in time, fashion also related to belonging to certain groups or to belonging to certain classes. And I think that's not necessarily longer the case. I also believe fashion and beauty are together also in this aspect.
Yeah, actually, what you said is very important. I mean, today, there is no boundaries between fashion, beauty and lifestyle. It's really one thing. That's what, we call it 360 marketing strategy. And you know that all the famous artists like Beyonce and many others, they really gravitate around the world of beauty, the world of fashion, lifestyle, music, movies, everything has become one thing.
That's right. Okay, so moving.
That slide is just a funny one, but it's not, I just want, for me, it's like the vision of the future, that one day you will be able to morph your face to anything you want. And I think that in Avatar, it was just to give us a little bit that idea that we can really express ourselves to a way that we can never imagine. And yes, I know it's far-fetched, but maybe one day, if you decide to do like that, you could.
But it's true. Actually, my second year students from the undergrad,
yes,
a lot of them created their final design project about this idea, about really having the opportunity as humans to morph ourselves into whatever we feel like. And I think this is going to be incredibly important for the future, both of the fashion and the beauty lifestyle industries. What do you think, Marc, if we pick a few questions before we move forward with the second part, which is going to be fragrances and incredibly interesting. For the people asking questions about perfume, please wait a little bit and we can answer those by the end of the presentation. I think this is an interesting question. We all very often hear that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Wait, where was this? I lost the question, but I wrote it down. Someone is asking if you believe beauty relies on subjectivity or if it's more connected to the general social construct. Or do you think this is a completely subjective vision for each individual?
It is a completely subjective vision. There's no question about it. There is nothing really objective about the world of beauty. However, it depends. I mean, if you go into skincare category, it could be very objective. It could be about molecule development who are very objective, claims, result of claims, and so forth. So it's you cannot really generalize. It depends which part of the industry you're talking about.
Fantastic. Someone is going back to something you mentioned at one of the slides. He's saying, Marc, why do you think is one way to understand the relation between the good and the beautiful?
Well, yes, that's a subject that I always will love to go into a bigger discussion. For me, again, it's about, you have to be careful, about the world of perfection, the world of beauty, and what does it mean? And I always take this example, is a war picture can be beautiful? It's another, session we can talk hours about that subject. And it is true that the world of beauty, need absolutely now to be very transparent and have a sense of responsibility of what they are doing. It cannot just be that vision of perfection. Yes.
Agreed. There's a short question here. I don't know if I understand right what the question is, but it relates to fast fashion. Do you think the beauty industry is also moving to that direction in the sense?
I hope not, obviously. I really hope not. I think actually we are moving completely to the opposite direction. We want product to be recyclable. We want quality product. And when I will talk about fragrances, there is more and more now fragrance perfumer working on doing high quality fragrance using only natural ingredients. And we want really the product to last. We don't want something like a lipstick in a plastic case that you trash after 5 minutes. So definitely,
and I think
quality. And also personalization, so if a product is personalized, you're going to keep it. You're going to refill it, but you're not going to,
And I think also beauty as an industry is probably moving in the same way as the food industry. Consumers are looking a lot more to the ingredients in products, to what they're putting, let's say, on their skin, on their face. And I think there are a lot of brands now actually reacting to that behavior.
Absolutely.
And you're going to talk about that later on. So we're going to talk about the present and the future a little bit.
Yes.
This is a nice question. Someone is asking, what happens to beauty when aging? Does it evolve or disappears? I mean, I obviously think it evolves, but I think your opinion on this, being a beauty industry expert, is going to be very nice to hear.
You mean like, if I understand well, the question is like, what's happening when you age, the beauty?
With this obsession with eternal youth. And all of
that's come back to the quote, about aging, and this want to become eternal, because really it's what it's about. It is true that the creative process to be an artist, when you create a piece, somehow some of them want that piece to become eternal. And yes, indeed, there is an obsession, especially for some part of the population, to keep this eternal youth, right? With a myth, obviously. So far, all scientific are working on that right now. We are trying to find out what are in your DNA, what can you change in your DNA to stop the aging process? How can you stop the whitening of your hair? How can you stop, to have all kind of skin, issues and aging skin and all of that? There is a lot of progress made, but right now, we are nowhere about stopping the aging process of the cell. We are not even close to it. Okay, yes. So there is a myth, and it's true that you have to be careful. It becomes a mental state. You have to accept the idea that you are aging, and you have to do it with grace and have a big smile on your face.
Yeah, and I also think there's a big movement on embracing age as it is. I mean,
I'm going to show you a slide about that, actually, as you know, later on, about that specific subject. However, it is true that if you have a very good skincare routine and you start quite young, yes, indeed, you can keep your skin complexion in a much better shape. And of course, we are going to go into that a bit later in the presentation about how important it is to be healthy, and we're going to talk more about that. But stopping the aging process, no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we for everyone, we talked about this before the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the perfume bit, which is going to be incredibly interesting because I think perfume, we discussed this as well, is such an abstract product. I mean, it is a product in the way that is packed in a bottle, is packed in a box, but the actual object, it's so abstract. So I think this is going to be very interesting for all of you watching us.
Yes, so actually, yes, so we decided to show, the top 10 fragrances in the US market. So this is today. So it's important that you can see what fragrances and what brand are really performing today, the top 10 in the US market. And here, the first slide is really, for me, everything is there, about the world of fragrance. It's about the attraction, it's about the scent, the idea of reproduction, and that's our little bees going to the flowers, and with the pollen, is going to help nature to continue the cycle. And very interestingly, if we look really again, long time ago, 12,000 years ago, actually, in the ancient Egypt, fragrances were a very important part of the religious ritual. It really started with religions because they were thinking that the smoke coming from the product they were using could communicate with the gods somehow. And it was, as I said at the beginning of my presentation, really the privilege of the nobility and the priest to use this product. But very quickly, he became, a part also of everybody's life, because the essence of the fragrance and the product the ingredient they were using, also very good medical treatment for many things. I like that slide of Cleopatra. I love Cleopatra. If everyone should read biography of Cleopatra. She was the queen of marketing. She was a very smart woman, and she did a lot, at her time. She was actually the last of the pharaoh of Egypt, actually. And she knew everything about the art of seduction. And it's a true story that when she was waiting for her lovers, she was basically covering her barge with flowers and essence of flowers. And she was making a big theatrical, aspect of all of that event, I would say. She was a queen of PR somehow, and many other things actually she did. That's something everyone should know, but the word perfume actually comes from the Latin perfumum, and it means through the smoke. Because really the origin of fragrances was something you burn as an incense. And he started in Mesopotamia, he went to Egypt, and he went to Greece, he went to the Roman and the Persian. It's truly a global ritual. I like that slide because it's a slide from the movie The Perfume. And, if you have one book I recommend you all to read, you have to read The Perfume, The Story of the Murderer from Patrick Süskind, who is a German author. It's not a very big book, but it's absolutely an incredible book. Will tell you everything about really the origin of the way modern perfume were created. And it's much more than that. It's many layers in that book about humanity and rejection and stardom and many other things. So it's a very good book to read. You can also watch the movie, but the book is much better. Next slide. And then I jump on time of today, and I love also, to always look into the future of the beauty industry. And I love this company called Algorithmic Perfumery with that quote, "What if every human could create their own perfume?" But believe it or not, it's totally possible. Next slide. Basically, you can fill up, a questionnaire, a psychological profile, and the computer could help to see what kind of ingredient or notes, as you know, it's called notes in the perfume industry, should be mixed together. So somehow it's kind of a robotic nose will put together a fragrance unique to you. You should know also that fragrances are, through your nose, go to the center of your brain where is the stage of emotion and memories. And that's why I felt also it was so interesting to show you fragrance advertising, because it's very emotional and very close to your memory. So I'm going to go into, it could be almost a quiz, but I'm not going to quiz you because maybe I quiz the last one and we see if someone can find out who is number one. So I'm asking a question now. You have 10 minutes to find out who is number one. Don't look on your computer. That would be too easy. So let's go into here. Just to be clear, I have the exact number of year-to-date December 2019. I decided to show you the full year 2019 and not year-to-date of today, because today, with the whole situation that the number are unfortunately kind of strange. And here I say, total parents, let's go back one slide so people are very clear about that. Total parents brand, it means that they are number 10, the top 10 fragrance represent also the full brand around them. So the body lotion, other, flanker who are around the brand, the total number. So number 10 is actually Miss Dior this year. And what you will do for love. You all recognize, of course, the beautiful Natalie Portman on this advertising with all the ingredients of Dior. For the people who know the house of Dior, you recognize the gray background with the mark of Dior and also the decoration of the wall, elegant but yet simple. And of course, on this advertising, you can see the relationship with the fashion as she's holding, of course, a beautiful evening dress from Dior. And number 9 is actually number 5. I mean, number 5 could be number 5 or number 9 could be number 5. But this year, number 5 is number 9. And you all recognize Lily Rose Depp, with the daughter of Johnny Depp, and it was shot by Jean-Paul Goudet. Chanel number 5, as you know, is very keen about celebrity, and the perfume is still the same, even if actually, if I say a small little story, the Chanel number 5 of today is not exactly the same than Coco Chanel approved in the 20s, because the formulation was changed because of some ingredient and issues and so forth. But nevertheless, they always pioneer the idea of to have the face of the moment. And as you know, Chanel, if you look at all the history of Chanel number 5, they have always the most incredible celebrities on their advertising. You can feel also on this ad the sense of appropriation, this idea that she's looking through the bottle, but also it's, the sense of luxury about the oversize of the bottle. The bottle design, by the way, is never changed for all this year. It's still the same exact bottle. Number 8 is Good Girl from Caroline Herrera. I think the success of the brand and that fragrance is probably because of the shape of the bottle as a stiletto. And it's good to be bad. That's something in advertising, in fragrance advertising, you will see a lot, the bad girl and the good girl. And this was number 8 for the year. I love number 7. It's Victor and Rolf with Flower Bomb. This was a beautiful ad done by Fabien Baron. I don't know if you heard about Fabien Baron as a creative director. I always recommend you to look at his website. Certainly one of the most beautiful websites. Lots of reference in the beauty and fashion world. And they came up with this great concept for flower bomb and this opposition between the grenade and the flowers. And again, he showed the power of this woman. Number 7. This is the new rendition. You know, in the fragrance world, you always have to come up with a new ad. You cannot keep up, you know, even if you have a very successful ad, you always have to come up with a new one. This is the latest one, and I leave up to you to decide if you prefer the original one or the new one. It's debatable. It's a little different, same concept, but different interpretation. Number 6, Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. That's a huge success from Dolce & Gabbana. This was shot by the famous photographer Mario Testino, and the two models here are interesting because actually they're a bit older, more mature type of model, and extremely sexy. And it shows again how much the ocean and the blue of the ocean and the blue of the sky, you know, is key ingredient and so much iconic in the fragrance industry. And light blue also, if you think about it, it's a genius name. Light blue, you know, the light, the blue. And by the way, you know, it's also very hard to find new names for fragrances, you know, because there's so many. At some point, 10 years ago, it was more than 400 launches of fragrance a year. So you can imagine to find new names. The next one is J'adore Dior, and you all obviously recognize, you know, the actress Charlize Theron, who is an ambassador of the brand for now a few years. And J'adore Dior Gold. I'm sure that Monica, all your student knows that gold in French is or, and therefore J'adore as or gold and Dior as or gold. So all it's about gold. And obviously she's here shot, you know, in a castle of Versailles where everything, of course, is in gold. Note also in this advertising, you know, how well, you know, the connection between the design of the bottle and her neck, you know, is like the same, you know, and obviously the dress was created to go with the bottle as well. And on that number 5, actually, they have different interpretation. You know, some years they change. So let's move on. And here, obviously, they went to something more back to the nature a little bit more. So they put some gold into the ocean. It was quite interesting. But you can see how powerful is this woman. She's moving forwards. So that was also a very interesting one. The next one is they came back to something more sensual. The water is still in gold, and it looks like she's in some kind of sauna. And on the TV commercial, there is all kind of different women on this advertising. I'm going to show one commercial. Is Versailles.
The past can be beautiful.
Bed is burning by my bed for you.
A memory, a dream, but it's no place to live. And now is the time. The only way out is up. And it's not heaven, it's a new world. The future is gold. J'adore Dior.
So that's a very interesting TV commercial. First of all, because of the quality of the production. As you know, all the big houses are absolutely not afraid to spend a great deal of money and time to produce this commercial. It's shot in the Palace of Versailles, so it shows the history of France, obviously, it's very important for the Dior house. But then, as you can see, this strong and powerful and determined woman is moving forwards, and she's an entrepreneur. And it's so metaphoric to see that the roof of Versailles becomes Shanghai with obviously the Chinese market that for obvious commercial reason, is very important for the house of Dior. So that's for me kind of the perfect commercial done, for that brand. Number 4 is Daisy. I love Daisy because finally something fresh, be coming back to the origin of nature and the fragrance. Remember the bees? I showed you the bees. Now we are back to the bees, and the big flowers for Daisy, for Marc Jacob. I think it was a genius campaign. This haute hippie, as we call it, this movement, to go back to nature, I think was very important. And is no doubt that it's a very famous, very successful fragrance, especially with younger people, and they are doing extremely well. They shift their advertising with now 3 models, and here again, we feel obviously, this idea of diversity and to have obviously showing different aspects of the fragrance. They went away from the bees and they went back to the beach because again, people always love to see, the ocean, and that's something that you can see in fragrance advertising all the time. But you can see this idea of friendship, and it's sweet, and they are together, and it's kind of very pretty. Number 3, La Vie est Belle. Okay, for Lancôme. Lancôme, as you know, is a French brand, but they do almost 40% of the business in the US market, so it's very important for the US market. And it's no surprise to see the beautiful, iconic smile of Julia Roberts. And again, you can feel on this advertising the sense of a strong and powerful woman as well. On the next interpretation of the ad, Return to Paris. Paris is very important for the world of fragrances. And obviously, it's very appealing to the US market. That's also something very interesting that Lancôme did this year. They launched Idole. I like the bottle, by the way. If you see if you look at the bottle, it's the flattest bottle ever. I think they tried to mimic a phone. It's really, I don't want to advertise the brand, but anyway, it's what it is.
And that form.
Yes. But also, not only that, they were looking for a younger customer because Julia Roberts, is for a certain, range of consumer. And obviously, they are going with, with Zendaya, who are very successful show, on HBO called Euphoria. I don't know if you saw it. And I think it was very well done for Lancôme to go with Zendaya. Let's move to the next one. Here again, just aside the PR side to show how important it is for the brand to show diversity and going to the right direction. I have to say I work at Lancôme for a few years, and I always felt the brand were always very progressive about that aspect of consumer. Number 2, we are very close now, is Chanel Chance. Very interesting bottle for Chanel because it's a round bottle. After looking at so many square, they finally end up with a round bottle, and I guess it was lucky for them because Chance is number 2. And I'm going to show you a very cute TV commercial done by Jean-Paul Goudet with a famous French director, and it's quite interesting. Let's look at it.
And this is, Marc, what you were mentioning before, right? The number 2 relates to the whole portfolio of products of Chance, let's say, in this case.
That's correct, yes. Because they have Au Tendre, then they have Intent, they have different categories that, that's correct. Do we have the commercial after that slide?
I think, yeah, it's here.
Here we go.
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, I like her.
No.
What about this one? She's great, no?
No. 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 No.
You're perfect.
No.
All around the world.
Yes. 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 Yes.
All around the world.
Take your chance. Chance au tendre. The new eau de parfum. Chanel.
Right. So this is interesting commercial. because it is a certain perversity somehow into it, I am, the casting, I'm going to pick you, I'm going to pick you, no, and then yes, and that's luck and all of that. But I think he was very witty, obviously, and have a good sense of humor. That's also something very important, that I heard all the time during conversation, is a lot of people say, oh, fragrance advertising is so boring. The beauty industry overall, they are so serious. But this is really changing. You can see more and more fun stuff going on.
And I think younger generations are also getting more involved.
That's correct.
Beauty industry as a whole. I mean, I even see a lot of 19 or 20-year-olds really taking care of themselves. And
yes.
I don't think it was always like this. So obviously brands are also shifting to that younger audience and younger behavior.
Yes, I think we're both. It could be very serious, but also it could be very witty and very fun. And, God wants to have fun, and you have many brands, especially like Too Faced, who do a lot of very funny stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, did someone discover who is number one? Mendoza, do we have a winner? Do we have a winner who knows is number one?
We don't have winners with number one.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So number one is Coco, Mademoiselle, Chanel again. So they are number one, and is obviously, the beautiful Chiara Kipner, the actress. Tuma, obviously, she represents Coco Chanel. She has the expressions, the will, the power of Coco Chanel into her and represent the brand. And actually, that's the number one fragrance selling. It's a very big number because it combines a younger proposition of Chanel as Mademoiselle, but yet it has the essence of the brand, into it. And you can see the background with Art Deco-ish, with a reference obviously to Coco Chanel. But that's number one for years now. This is really, and you can see obviously that in a portfolio of the top 10 fragrance, Chanel has 3. So, and Dior has 2. So,
let me Marc. Obviously, marketing is a very important piece at the success of a brand. But what do you think it really is relevant to have something as abstract as perfume being so liked by so many people? Because this is also something you wear. What I'm saying is that even if you love the advertising, even if you love the bottle, if you don't love the smell, you're not going to wear it. So what do you think it's important for?
Well, that's a very complex question, complex statement and question you're asking, because you have both of it, okay? Yes, indeed. You have people who go to a store, they smell a fragrance, I love it, I hate it, okay? Or I buy it, I love it, I'm going to rebuy it, or I hate it, or I don't like it so much, I move to something else. There is many scenarios. Okay, but now we can see, that a lot of people are buying fragrances only looking at influencer report, or basically what they like the actress or the celebrity, or they love the brand, and they are going to buy the fragrance without even testing it. Okay, and believe it or not, it's bigger. It's growing of people buying fragrances before. Now it's true. There is an issue with that, because if you buy, okay.
Yeah, we have to do it. So, but I think we can keep doing this, and I find that to be very interesting. And maybe this is a personal point of view, because I'm a strong smell person.
Great. Yeah.
The new eau de parfum intense. Coco Mademoiselle, Chanel.
Yes, so on that commercial, you can start to feel all the ingredients of this of the house of Chanel. there is many elements, who are starting to show, the importance of social media, and the guy has tattoo, and there is a lot of reference of, a much younger audience, and so forth. But still a sense, of the house of Chanel and Paris and all the glamour of Paris. Because at the end, I think really people who buy fragrance, they want to dream as well. There is a part of dream into all of that. And I think it's important for people to dream a little bit as well. But I know that you were asking me a question before, but we were running the commercial, so I forgot what it was.
No, I was just saying, it's a quick note that I find it interesting that from a commercial point of view, that is happening like that. But maybe, this is Monica talking about me. I'm obsessed with smells, and I can't resist something I dislike. So I find it interesting, that there would be a purchase or a behavior on that sense, more because of the celebrity or the people involved. But it was just a comment on that.
Okay, so now it is true that if you talk to perfumers, the people who create the fragrance, what we call the nose, they will say that probably it was way too much marketing-driven launches of fragrances in the last 10, 15 years, and people kind of forgot about the fragrance itself, what is inside. And thank God now we can see a revival of artisan perfumer and smaller, brands who basically propose, incredible quality fragrances, and they will not advertise celebrity or a marketing concept or communication. They will advertise the product. You should know that you have roses and roses. You have the roses from grass and roses from other part of the world, or synthetic roses, and the price vary from $10,000 a little bottle of pure essences to $3 in a lab. And it is true that high quality organic fragrances are expensive to do, and a lot of people now are searching this type of fragrances, and the hype of celebrity, is not that important. But it depends again of the type of brand. For Chanel, Dior, and all the big fashion house, it's absolutely critical for them to continue heavy advertising and social media on all their beauty products, because it reinforces the platform of their accessories and their fashion line.
Yeah. For people that are posting different questions, please note that by the end of the presentation, we'll talk about a little bit about the future of the industry and where beauty is heading. So please hold on with us. We will probably do this bit quickly, and then we will have a few more questions by the end, and I think we can continue.
Okay, let's continue then. I just want also to mention that on my ranking, it was the total, brand plus, auxiliaries around them. But also, you have on number 10, Beautiful. That's the number for the fragrance only. But Beautiful from Estée is very important. Fragrance doing extremely well in the US, because again, the concept of the wedding is still very deep and very emotional. And, here again, you are really selling the idea of the beautiful wedding more than what is the fragrance itself. Okay, and it's still number 10. And I think number 9 is Versace Bright Crystal. And here, obviously, we are in a world of voluptuous and obviously sense of sexuality into the ad. Let's go into very quickly, because I know that time is flying, but we have to show the man. There is no reason to not show the man. Even if also, and I want to say how important it is, there is more and more unisex fragrances. Thank God.
Say that, yeah.
Thank God that finally many, brands are starting to develop unisex fragrance. Whatever you are, you can wear a fragrance. It doesn't have necessarily, to be for women or for men. But it is true that the women fragrance are obviously more floral and fruity, when the men's fragrance are going to be more citrus and amber and old sandalwood and so forth. Anyway, the top 10 fragrance, so we are going to go is Bleu Chanel, Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani, Sauvage Christian Dior, Why Homme by Yves Saint Laurent, Gucci Guilty by Gucci, Armani Code, L'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent, Eros by Versace, 1 Million by Paco Rabanne, and Polo Blue, Ralph Lauren. What is interesting in the slide, they are all famous designers. There's no question about it. Yeah. There is really a very strong relationship between the fashion brand, and the platform of the awareness of that brand, and of course the fragrance. So let's go into looking at the ad. We're going to go quickly because it's true that men's advertising tend to be, kind of a little bit repetitive, I will say. So let's move on. That's an interesting one from, L'Homme, the Yves Saint Laurent with famous actors. I think it's interesting to see Libre, who I think is #1 year to date. So it's definitely climbing in a chart. Their new fragrance, and it's definitely interesting to see their choice with Dua Lipa, with again trying to refresh the brand and to have a younger customer. And you can see, in the advertising, the guy has a tattoo. She also has a tattoo, and she represents definitely a younger customer. Armani, again, doing extremely well. Of course, I can spend an hour to start going into the detail. The creative process, all this advertising is a lot of work going into it. Don't think they are just improvisation or just the moment in a shoot. They go through a lot of testing, focus group, and they are very precisely, designed. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all of that, but just to have an idea. That's also a very interesting new way, to present, fragrances. And it's #4, by the way, is instead to show celebrity. You go into you and I, the rapper, so you go to a whole different type of communication. You talk about real people. Okay, so you have the rapper, next one. You have the sculptor, he's a cool guy. You have the researcher into IE, all good-looking guy. They are all cool, the sense of coolness and all of that. But they are real people. In contrast, Sauvage Dior, you have obviously Johnny Depp, who obviously, is also covered with tattoo on this ad, and have all the rings like Kate Richard. But let's move on. That's also like, another variation of the ad. That's also very, very important, fragrance and campaign. The most beautiful portrait was starting with air brips, and incredible, black and white photography of handsome men. And Acqua di Gio is definitely a winner and continue to be a winner for many, many years. But again, here, to answer your question, Monica, it's an incredible fragrance as well. It's a fragrance you cannot go wrong with it. And the last one is #1 is Chanel. They're really like the powerhouse, and they are #1 again with Bleu. And Bleu, again, as I mentioned to you many times during the presentation, Bleu, the sky, the ocean, the planet Earth. I mean, why to make it complicated when it could be something simple? Bleu is eternal, it's iconic. And they use, obviously, this very Frenchy actor, and it's kind of night and blue and black and all of that. I think there is a commercial to go with it.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low. I leaned back on my radio.
Where's he going?
Some cat was laying down some rock and roll that I slowly said. Then the loud sound, it seemed to fade. Came back like a slow voice on a wave of haze. That wasn't no DJ, that was hazy cosmic jive. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman
It's right in front of you. L'eau de Chanel, le parfum.
Okay, again, very big production. We could talk also a lot about all the metaphor of this type of commercials. The casting is perfect. Again, and as you can see, sometimes they're not afraid to pay a lot of money for the music that they really want.
Yeah, that's right. So let's see.
But since we were talking about music, Monica, I am sure some of the audience saying, well, wait a minute here. I don't understand this ranking is missing something. I know many other fragrances who are not on that list are thinking we are big. You are correct. And I'm going to actually show you some slide now of another part of the business with more the mass fragrances. Don't forget, I present you the prestige fragrances, sell in department store and luxury, retailers. But there is also a huge market with fragrances that you can buy, in many other type of distribution. So,
yeah, and it is important to mention, I mean, of course, you are the expert on this, but of course, beauty is segmented in very different niches and types of distribution. As we were saying before, we have more niche brands, but we also have this other type of brands.
And actually, what is going to be probably the big trend of the future is that, the idea of masstige, and prestige are going to disappear. The world of luxury is not going to be separated and segmented like that anymore. I think it's going to be only two categories of product. The product that you need and the product that you don't need, and that's really where we are going. So yes, so here I just want to show you, to obviously many stars who are doing a lot of business in fragrances. They are all very famous celebrity from the world of music and so forth. So Johnny Bieber, you have Antonio Banderas, you have St. John, $70 million. You have Gwen Stefani with $80 million with this very cute little bottle. Jessica Simpson, $80 million. We have still Elizabeth Taylor, all right, who's doing very well because diamonds are eternal. And, and we have, of course, Rihanna. She's about $80 million as a projection so far. Very interesting to see the competition is not only on the music aspect, but also in their beauty line, with Taylor Swift and Rihanna and all of that. Look at Britney Spears, $100 million business with Curious, okay? And this is incredible. This is J.Lo, who started, with House of Coty, to develop her fragrances. And are you going to believe she's now $2 billion? Next slide. Yes, she's basically a $2 billion franchise. Jennifer Lopez, all right? So we're talking serious business here. And number one is obviously Beyonce, $400 million business with Heat. All right? This slide is just to, again, coming from WWD, also to everyone listening to us today and who are, very interested into the beauty industry. There is obviously many publications to look into it, but WWD and Beauty Inc. are definitely something you should look every day. And you will get a lot of information of what's happening in the industry today. But this is a big trend of today about, really talking about the ingredient. Forget about celebrity, forget about marketing, communication message, but they say, I am going to sell you an incredible product, and all I'm selling you and the price you pay is for the ingredient and for the research of this product and nothing else. This is just my personal slide. Yes, we have to save the bees. It's very critical to have a world with bees, because if we don't have bees, there will be no more nature. So it's a movement that is important. That slide was kind of like taking a break and to talk about where we are going and where the beauty world is going. And I love that slide.
I think, sorry to interrupt you, a lot of questions actually relate to that.
Okay.
Where is the industry heading? So I think this part of the presentation will answer a lot of questions automatically.
That's right. You know, that's the world of today. Now we are today. And yes, Barbie, you all remember the Barbie doll, you know, the iconic Barbie doll, but now, yes, indeed, there is many different type of people on that planet, and it's recognized, you know, worldwide, and that's becoming really very important for the future. Yes, that's happened less than a month ago. I think it's a slide, we said it all. That was the cover of Beauty Inc., you know, with a professional magazine about the beauty industry, and changed now. And obviously on that picture is very clear that the industry has to recognize the so important shift of our society. The industry have to recognize that indeed it was, let's face it, 20, 30 years ago, very self-centered into a very specific type of the population. And finally, it started, I would say, 10 years ago, we're starting to open up, and we will see more and more of that happening. And that's for the best. And it put definitely a smile on my face. Here is some headline, you know, that I picked for you guys, June 5th, you know, of this year. Beauty forced to confront racism, consumer are pursuing the beauty industry to go beyond statement, and the nation ultimately commit to long-term change. And yes, we can see a very big company like L'Oreal doing a lot of work on that level. Also Estée Lauder, you can see Estée Lauder, we will hire more Black employees for the next 5 years. So there is definitely a commitment to have, you know, the industry opening up to the whole planet. Yes. Like that one also, that's a supermodel, John Small, you know, who basically is donating a lot of money to the movement, as well as many other artists. This is also a super important slide, and I know that probably there is a lot asking, what is the future of the beauty world? It's all there. It's about wellness. That's the biggest trend of the future. Is basically people want to be healthy, they want to be happy, and you know, this idea of I feel good, I look good is so true. If you wake up in the morning and you are really in a bad mood, you are not going to like to see in the mirror at all, whoever you are. Okay. Now, if you wake up in a super good mood and you have a great night of sleep and you are going to do a great job today, and you look in the mirror and now it's a whole different person who is there in front of you. And that's something that is going to become bigger and bigger. And with now the COVID-19 situation is going to accelerate that trend even further. And people are going to look more and more about, you know, staying healthy and mentally and physically, you know, to feel well. And that's why, as I mentioned before, we are going to see, you know, the pharmaceutical industry and the beauty industry merging at some point to basically be able to offer true products with ingredients who are really going to do what they are claiming they are doing. This is very cute.
Before you start your makeup, make sure that you're in a good light.
Makeup is a study in itself. You'll want not only to know how, but when to use it.
Accentuate the good points. Minimize the others. Beauty indeed is more than skin deep.
Care of the face, how to achieve a fine, clear, radiant complexion, then how to complement that fine.
Use lightly and blend it on and slightly below the bone under your eye.
On the lower lip, start at the corner and come to the center.
Skincare routine is important. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be very simple.
Foundation is used as a base for the rest of your makeup. The most important part of beauty comes from within.
If you understand the secrets of that skin, then you'll know how to give it that shining look.
I wish that I could wave a magic wand to show you what the difference would be. Just so, like that.
It's so cute, you know. And for Vogue magazine, who, you know, obviously, you know, advertise a lot of cosmetic companies, I think it was a very cute way to show the idea of to be.
And I think it's very relevant to one of the directions that the concept of beauty is heading to.
Yeah. So the next slide is kind of you all recognize Christina Aguilera, right? That's basically the way, you know, you go to MTV Award that she will perform, and that's totally great and fantastic. But look at the next slide. That's her. Okay, that's her with no makeup, no nothing, for a cover of Paper magazine, and she's so beautiful as well, you know. And yeah, no retouching, you know, no one touch her skin, no one tried to remove her beauty mark or wrinkle, and she looks absolutely gorgeous. All right, and that's also, you know, something very important what's going on in industry. That's what, you know, at the beginning of the conversation, you were talking about aging, and look what British Vogue put on their cover. I think it's great. Okay, and I really love that very much. Also, that's something that is also developing is, you know, this unisex and, you know, notion as well. And here it's Teddy who's a transgender, and she did this ad for Mutiny, you know, for Maison Margiela. But now she was hired by Chanel. Next slide. You know, to represent the brand as well. So we show that even traditional brands, you know, are definitely, you know, moving forwards with the whole movement. I'm sure it's going to be a question about that coming up, you know, how COVID-19 is changing the world of beauty. Yes, it is. It's as I said, it's an accelerator of things that we kind of knew, but now it's going even faster than expected. Also, I think it was a funny one, you know, but your boss should not be asking you to wear makeup on Zoom. I think it's also a whole new level of communication. Next slide. That's also very interesting. That's also a recommendation. Glossy is a very interesting website about beauty and fashion. Lots of very interesting articles. And again, you know, a lot of companies are reinventing retail. And L'Oreal Group is betting on live stream shopping in North America. And you will see more and more of that. Basically, you are going to have some point, you know, consumer, you know, be able to have demonstration of product live from home. And yes, Monica, for fragrance, it's a little bit challenging, but one day, you will see the fragrance molecule will be able to come to your home, you know, with a little machine with all the notes inside, and then the computer will mix up what you need, and it will happen. Yeah. That's also, yeah, it will come.
On that note, I was remembering the other day, of course you remember about this, when you used to get perfume samples in magazine pages.
Yes.
I think what you're saying is, you know, that concept will evolve through technology and other developments that we will see in the upcoming years, because there are always, you know, as a brand, even if you're small or big, you have to find ways to relate to your audience.
Yes. So actually sampling is becoming very big again. And obviously, yes, a lot of perfumers are selling fragrances to people so they can test it. But the stores are reopening quickly, okay? And this also is very interesting, is, you know, CBD oil, a huge appeal in the US market right now. And that slide is about really the future. And I can tell you that because of our situation now, a lot of companies are going to really look very seriously into many products, skincare products, to protect you against, you know, virus or bacterial infection. We are going to see more of that coming up because I think people are sensitive. This is, for me, a slide that I adore, to never forget about where we come from. And it's about, obviously, sustainability. And the beauty industry is now completely obsessed with that. And there is a lot of company working about reducing, the carbon print and reducing plastic part. It's very complex, by the way, because there is a lot of product in the beauty industry that have plastic part that are very difficult to replace, the pump and so forth, and there's many issues. But slowly but surely, even if you remove one part of plastic on a very mega brand, selling millions of products, as you can see, Unilever, they can reduce of 100,000 tons of plastic, to just modifying only one product. So there is a lot of progress done with this. All right, I know now that we are trying to move into Q&A as quick as possible.
I mean, I think, obviously, and as I mentioned earlier, it's difficult to answer all the questions because, this is such an extensive topic.
Yes.
It's very complex. It has many layers, and it's difficult to cover everything in an hour. I know a lot of questions will remain there, but I also hope that many of the layers you presented will give everyone a better sense of how the industry works. I would like to ask you, maybe to close our conversation, what is that thing you're most excited to see in the future of the beauty industry as we move forward? I mean, for you personally, what are you excited to see as we move ahead?
Well, I think what I'm really excited about is two things. First of all, about diversity. I think it should be basically product for absolutely everyone of the planet at any kind of price range. That's one. And two, I think, we will see, really to customize a product per person. And I think that's really where the future is about. The future is that each person will have their own product because that's what they feel that really represent them. So it will be this double take about getting, be yourself the marketing and the product development person of your own product, and to have company who can basically service every consumer to get what they want. So Monica, you want to create your own fragrance, I can help you to have really what you love, what is, go deep into your memory, your family, or whatever it's going to be, your sensuality, and you will have really that product. And for your skin, everybody has a different skin. Everybody has a different health, everybody has a different body. And to get product to basically are personalized to just you, I think is the future of the industry.
No, I think the key word that you used is represent. Because, the world is already diverse. We are all different. And I think for brands to really represent that is going to be key. And I think it's an exciting time, for maybe for big companies to develop some changes, but I think you also see a huge amount of young companies at the beauty industry popping up.
Yes.
They're really filling some blanks in the commercial space of beauty industry. I think a lot of these smaller niche brands have really found relevant things to say and relevant products out there that actually connect to the real people and the real audiences out there.
Yeah, and also to be local, I think it's important. You can be global, but you can also be local, and to use local resources, I think is going to become very important as well.
Thank you so much. I think we could continue for 7 hours having this talk, but
yes, I realize maybe I talk a bit too much. I wish to answer more questions. I don't know if we have time for
it. Was very, very good and a lot of interesting information. Again, an hour is of course not enough to talk about something like this, but we thank you very, very much for accepting our invitation, for being so generous at sharing your experience and all those these insights and perspectives on the future of the beauty / fashion / lifestyle industry. Thank you very much, Marc.
Okay, my great pleasure, and see you very soon.
Thank you, Marc.
Bye-bye now.
So I was just going to say goodbye to both of you. Thank you in the name of Centro for being here and for giving such a great connections and understanding of what beauty is and what connects us regarding beauty. And I just wanted to say a last few things in Spanish for audience to connect with us on social media. Por favor, síganos en todas las redes sociales, pónganos su correo si quieren en la parte de chat, si no se registraron al evento, para que les mandemos un follow-up de seguimiento, un correo. Y también los invitamos a que revisen todos nuestros programas de moda y nos acompañen en nuestros siguientes eventos en línea. Tendremos el día de mañana a las 6 de la tarde un taller de Jamboard con José Duarte, que ya nos visitó en uno de los VOR OnLives pasados. Y también hoy a las 5 p.m., o sea, ya en unas horas, vamos a tener una conversación de los procesos creativos con Gabriela Traverso, que es nuestra directora académica y directora de la maestría en estudios de diseño. Entonces, por favor, ojalá nos puedan acompañar. Síganos en redes sociales. Thank you, Mónica. Please follow Mónica in social media as well. And Marc, thank you for being here all the way through New York. We hope to get you and see you here in Mexico, like whenever you can, so you can visit and show us.
I forgot to mention that. Marc is actually connected to Mexico and is actually connected to CENTRO. I'm just going to leave it there. And he's going to be in Mexico. We have promised already to take him around. And we will be excited to see you here, Marc. Thank you very much for sharing.
Great pleasure.
Thank you.
See you very soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Marc. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mónica.